Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Prashanth Goda, Secretary NNF Karnataka chapter. So we have been having a series of talks on the how to build a proper hospital ecosystem. So now today's topic is about the clouding nursing calling system, hospital information server, and electronic medical recording. So we have three wonderful speakers who have got huge experience. And first talk will be done by Mr. Prashanth Chinta, and he'll be talking on nursing calling system, clouding, and the cameras, CCTVs, and other things. And the second, followed by his talk, will be by Dr. Rama Krishna. He will be talking on, he's created and coded, being a doctor. He has done wonderful electronic medical recording system. I've seen it personally. It is really one of the best EMR neonatal recording system which I have seen, which is on par or even beyond the NHS electronic medical recording system, where you can extract the records. Followed by his talk will be by Dr. Suzaka Varanasi. He's the founder of 108 Ambulance, is one, and is a former head of HMRI, and he will be talking on hospital. So I request Dinakar sir to give a brief introduction about Mr. Prashanth Chinta, CEO of Telecom Services, and then start the session. Dinakar sir, may I request you to introduce our speaker, Mr. Prashanth Chinta, to the audience. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Prashanth. Yeah, Dr. Prashanth Chinta is, I know him very well. Actually, I met accidentally. Okay, then I slowly realized who he is. So for my hospital, first, for my hospital, what I am constructing, some people have quoted for me about the camera system, about the clouding system, about the hospital information system, not the hospital software, hospital information system, where it will go, we can go. They quoted more than, trust me or not, 7 lakhs, they closed at 7 to 8 lakhs. Number one, not only money. Then I thought in the meantime, Corona came in the month of, I think so, February, somewhere Corona came. So central government has announced the lockdown system completely. That time I was searching for who is really, I don't want to take any China products because of some conflict between India and China. I was searching who can make all these things in India. So naturally, as an Indian, I was thinking, so made in India. So I came across Prashanth Chintu. So Prashanth Chintu is a really dynamic man and more than very humble. And he told only one thing, sir, I was there in Japan. Really, from my heart, I'm telling, I was very happy because I stayed 31 days in Japan. So in Tokyo, in a hospital, where I learned something about so many innovative things, what I am not able to even, I was not even, I cannot dream now also. So many things, but he told me about all these things. He was working in L&T, number one. And when I spoke with him, slowly I realized what is his potential. Then I asked him, can you do for me cameras? Then he has asked me, Doctor, sure. So he has taken about the cameras. Then I told him, I want that camera to be recorded in my server. Okay, only few people can see in their mobile. Can you do it for me? Yeah, he told, sure, doctor, but it needs some time for me, 3 months. Then he showed me what better. In this camera, I can see for our babies, even baby small eyelashes, we are able to see it. Number one. And all the monitors, whatever the central nursing station. Okay, and many people will give the central nursing station all the things. But once again, HIS or HMS, what we can see in our mobile, it is difficult. Once again, the more companies will ask everything money, money, money. And everywhere, whatever friends, whatever it is, money, money, money. Okay, everybody needs money. But innovative, good thing, long-time service, I found Prashanth Chintu. Really, he told, doctor, give me one chance. I want to showcase myself in India, what I am. So he did it and showed all the things, clouding. Even now, when I am going to start everything, rehearsal has been done, going to shot. My doctors can see sitting when they're coming in the car, where if they're going, working in the hospital, even the parents who are their grandparents can see their baby outside. And in the, suppose if the referring doctor also can see their baby, how their baby is doing very well with the vitals, provided all the code words are there, he has done it. That's not only that, the next class about him, what he has done. Somebody has quoted for me about the biomedical wastage. 18 lakhs to 14 lakhs later after bargain. He told me, doctor, it won't cost so much. Then he quoted and done for 8 lakhs for me. Trust me. And laundry system. I don't want my ayah to take laundry things from ward to ward. In the same floor, just dump it in the hotel, 5-star hotel, and it should go. Whether it is a bed sheet, small, pillow, it will only segregate. Only thing that ayah has to press it. Biomedical has to. Dry waste, wet waste, plastic, whatever it is there. Everything is coded with the fireproof. He has done it. Not only that, he is having so much innovative things in his brain. Ask him, doctors, whatever you need for your hospital. Give him a time for 15 days. He will make and give you people. I am really impressed about him. That is the reason I requested him. Can you deliver a class about the nursing calling system? And I asked him about the nursing calling system. One word. If my patient is sleeping, he doesn't want more light. He want to dim it. Can he do it in that same thing? Yes, doctor, he told. Then can he switch off the lights wherever his particular area? Yes, doctor. Can he listen to small music, whatever he likes? Yes, doctor. Suppose he wants to call a canteen? Yes, doctor. He wants to call a housing, IMA, means housekeeping. Yes, doctor. Not only nurse calling. Everything he has done it in only a small handheld thing. And it is rugged, given for 5 years to 10 years warranty and guarantee, which company will give for the lowest cost and the best thing. And now he is installing in Pune 850 nursing calling unit in Pune for COVID patients. Okay, that's what his things are. Over to Prashanth. Whatever I know from my heart, I told about you. Please go ahead. Over to you, Prashanth. Chintu.
Thank you, Doctor. First of all, thanks, Dr. Prashanth, for giving this opportunity. And Dr. Dinakar, thank you so much. You've just not been a support to me, but as a guiding person as well. So much that I could kind of come to you was only because of your requirement and the kind of exemplary taste that you kind of showcased of what even in a tier 2 kind of place that you wanted to have a system. And trust me, we've been selling this for quite some time now. And we have come across very few people who ask the kind of specification that you ask. And you really put us with that kind of challenge and something that we really love at a company to do, sir. So thanks for that fine introduction. Quickly, I'll just share my slides. Please let me know once you are able to see this. I hope you're able to see my slides, sir.
Prashanth?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see now. We can see now.
Yeah, we can see, sir. Go ahead, sir.
So, as doctor was introducing myself, I have little over 25 years of experience. Predominantly, I started with the humble beginning of a field engineer of supporting various systems, and eventually, time in sales, and then as a designer, I spent quite a good amount of time in transnational market, be it in US, Europe, predominantly in Belgium, and then in Japan, I spent good amount of time. So this is where it really kicked off for me to kind of look at the kind of systems that they have in place there. Apparently, when I was in Japan, I have my kid now who is 5 years old, and my wife was carrying then. And the simplest and simple of systems that the hospitals have instated in place, where you kind of go in there to have an automatic registration, considering the kind of situation at which the patients walk in, the kind of automation that they had put in place is what really, really impressed me. And always I felt as an engineer, this is something that we can do it, but we just want people to say like, okay, come forward, let's do it. This has been one special feature of Japanese, what we have seen. The companies out there do produce a lot of equipment for Japan. They also produce for rest of the world. But what they produce for Japan is magnificent. It is very, very special and very, very engineered for their application. This is something that we been missing in our ecosystem, is what I felt. That's when I had this thought of making these products in India, especially to suit the local requirement. Well, we have been adapted to a lot of systems which are imported ones, and then we start to see how we can force fit them into our system. But then reverse engineering it from what is our need, how can we kind of localize them, is what we started seeing as an opportunity. That's how we started. So I started this company called Tellercom about 5 years ago. Sometime in 2016 March is when I started leaving my lucrative job, and then I started building a lot of products for medical, hospitality, and fitness industry. So it's purely a communication system. That's where we started. It is called Internet of Things, and Internet of Things have made so much of inroads into medical that I would like to cover in the future discussion. So wireless has become a base of it. So with that in place, we started looking at how we could simplify this so-called complex technology of Internet of Things with the state-of-the-art offering that is there, to kind of produce those products which can make life simpler for hospitals or fitness industry, or even all these restaurants and the food industry we talk about. So our USP is that we design, build our products here in India. Today, what we do are with two important principles on which we work. One is about the convenience that it really brings to the guest or patients in the hospital case. Second thing is also the productivity, how it can improve the productivity of the nursing staff, be it, or the hospitals, or the entire operation for that reason. So these are the two major things that we have put in place to kind of develop the product. So our solutions, predominantly it is wireless nurse call system. Why wireless? I will talk about it a little later. And queue management is another very interesting product. How we can kind of organize the queue of all the OPDs of people who come in there, and then how it can be kind of informed them that it's their turn. So there is no chaos, there is no anxiety like how long should I wait, what is really happening with mine, did somebody else come in ahead of me? Second one is about the ICU patient video that doctor was talking, Dr. Dinakar was suggesting. And this is a very interesting project that we've been working on, where in a hospital of the nature that we are talking about today, mother and child hospital, especially when there is a newborn, there's so many people, family, friends who really want to come and see, and then we would have our relatives abroad who want to kind of see this kid that's born. So is there a system that we can put in place where we can broadcast, we can kind of stream what the child look like, and then it's just not just the convenience, but then start looking at it from when the child at times has to spend some days in ICU or PICU, for instance. That's where where other than mother nobody are let, but then there is a big rush for people to kind of want to come see what's happening with the baby and things like that. So, and there is a lot of work, a lot of presentation that need to be done in a counseling room to kind of talk about the baby's condition and things like that. So these cameras really come into help when you really need to talk about the child without even bringing the person into the ICU. The other interesting thing is about the pneumatic tube. This is a project that we started and we would be deploying at Dr. Dinakar's hospital, where we would kind of have the payload from the labs or payload from the pharmacy to be sent across to different ICUs or different wards, and moving the documents from one place to another. We are building a pneumatic system, and again, I'm really proud to say that all the systems are designed and built here in India by us. So we just do it here in Bangalore. And then the other important thing is about the laundry and the refuse chute system, that is for the waste management. That's another system where the regulation is, or at least from safety point of view, it is very important to see how you kind of dispose this waste. So it's a system in place that we are kind of putting, and that is one other thing that we are doing for Dr. Dinakar. I'll talk about it later as we go forward. So it's about nurse call system. So I have mostly focused on nurse call system in this session to kind of give you an overview of what the whole nurse call system is about and how do you choose what is important in nurse call system. Simply, what is the nurse call system? It's just a communication platform, as all you know, to kind of give some kind of good quality care to your patients. So when we have a nurse call system put in place, what is important? It should be with a seamless communication. It should be easy to use. It should be reliable, efficient, intelligent, and more importantly, it should not cost huge. As most of the hospitals, either they come up and then these systems would consume a huge budget of the building of the whole budget in the building, or when it comes to upgradation or modifying or changing the layout, for instance, in future, and instating these systems would cost. But that is where it is important to kind of look at how we are kind of pricing it and what are the various things that we really need to look at in terms of features that we need to get when it comes to a nurse call system. So just a bit deeper to understand what a nurse call system, how it all started. As you know, like in any advanced medicine, even the nurse call system was something like very early mid 80s, 18th century system, where you have this Florence Nightingale, and most of you would know about the nursing care innovation that she put in place. And this was essentially kind of invented during the wartime, at least a system to be put in place to kind of ensure that every soldier who's wounded or in need of a medical care is kind of given some kind of system to kind of notify the nurse. So that's how it all started. And if you see how the whole communication system evolved, it started with a basic bell, hand bell, from where they were calling, and to a simple light, and then it became a voice-based intercom system, and then you had this wired kind of system, then it became wireless system. So in India, there is no big standard that defines that it should be like this, but then there are basics that what it need to do, and that is as per UL 1069 standard, which says as per the NEC code, you need to kind of do all the electrical wiring and things like that. But as a feature, it should have three basic things. One is about call activation, that is when patient or the person in need to kind of call the nurse. One. Second thing, how it gets notified. Either it could be it should be both audible as well as visual, including all these corridor lamps, so that they can be guided to a place where the patient is calling, and then how they kind of say that we have attended to the call or cancel the call. So these are things that it kind of evolved. But then there is a big discussion about wired and wireless. So when you talk about wired and wireless, what is important? Wireless, as you know, after this mobile revolution of having the CDMA, then became 1.5G, 2G, 3, and 4. Now we are heading towards 5G. What does that mean? What does that generation of these connectivities mean? As you know, between 2.5, 3G especially, and then came the 4G, there was a big data, big bandwidth that was available to see what else we can accommodate other than just having people beyond voice and data connectivity. That's how the evolution of mobile phones came in. Whereas when this 4G was a defining moment to say like, okay, we can connect multiple other devices into the network. Like for instance, you sitting here at your place, you can actually monitor what is really happening at your hospital, for instance. What is the performance of the systems out there? You really want to know like how many times the ultrasound machine was turned on and what is the duration at which it was used, and then is it something that, and once you have this kind of data, there is second part that you can do a lot of analytics in this. Is it the time that I invest on a second ultrasound machine, or is there a big load for my MRI, and then I need to kind of look at something more beyond this. So all this information of what my systems or my machines are doing is what we could start reading into. That's where the wireless started becoming popular. And the best part when things become popular is about the cost will come down. And most of you are doctors, as I know, but I'm sure you would have come across what is called as Moore's law. Moore's law says, even to this day, that holds good. Morse is one person who invented, or he was the founder of Intel. Dr. Morse is called, and even to this day, his principle holds good. That is, every 2 years, the chipset will have what is called as transistors, and the number of transistors in the chipset would double and the cost would come down by half. That's how, when you kind of get to see today, we talk about maybe in iPhone, for instance, iPhone today, I don't know, it's about 11 or 10 or 11 that is kind of going on. Every model they're changing, the chipset that would contain these chips are doubling, or the ICs are doubling. Sorry, the transistors in the chipset are doubling, which means the speed is increasing, the cost is coming down. That's how this industry keeps going on. Therefore, there is a huge space for technology, especially the connectivity, and then the data processing, which can be accommodated in these chipsets. And that's how this can be kind of used for multiple other activities other than just basic calling. That's how today you see your phone is much beyond just a telephone. It is a computer in your hand, and it's a camera in your hand. It is kind of today GPS that kind of gives you a location, and all these features are kind of stuffed into one device. That's how the technology is kind of exploding, and then we are able to kind of leverage on that part. So now, with this kind of advances being and the cost of wireless coming down, it was a perfect timing for us to kind of look at where all we can implement the wireless. So it all started this way. 5 years ago, when I started this company, we just thought of making a wireless pager for the restaurants. And these pagers were normally when you have a guest placing an order, especially in the food courts, you get to see where guest goes and place an order, he will just get a small pager. With that, he'll be seated at his place and spending time with his family or friends with whom he's gone with or she is gone with. And then once the food is ready, they push a button and they'll get notified. So that was our first device. And this nurse call system was an offshoot of this wireless pager. So in this case, the host is calling the guest to say, whereas in nurse call system, it is the guest or the patient will be calling the host or the nurse to kind of say like, I need you. So this is the system. With bringing in this technology into the nurse call system, which is a traditional nurse call system, we could actually bring down the cost of installation by humongous amount. Especially start looking at the number of wires that you need to run between each place. A typical 10-bedded hospital also, you look at, you have a toilet, you have a bed, and then this whole thing should come to one nurse station. Likewise, every room there should be something that is coming. So we could kind of really bring down this, and that would mean a lot in terms of saving the cost even for the new hospitals that are coming up. One. Also, when it comes to the upgradation of the hospitals, or maybe the modifications and things like that they do on the hospital. Even when it comes to that, it's really flexible because it will allow you to kind of change the layout and reinstall the whole thing. So that's how the wireless started taking a significant role in improving the cost compared to that. Compared to that of wired. Second thing is about the installation. As it is wireless, you can just go on with the plug and play mode rather than you need to run the wires and then start installing this. Then came the maintenance part of it. Only thing about wireless is where you look at portability, then it's a battery. If you are talking about, well, I'm just connecting it to the mains power, then there is no maintenance either. And as you know, the flexibility point of view, reallocation, that as I said, it's pretty easier. So that's where the wired and wireless stands as of today. And cost, today both are at par. Earlier wireless was expensive, as I said. Today when you start looking at wireless vis-a-vis with wire, wireless is more or less same, or even at times it's cheaper in some cases. So keeping all these things in mind, we went ahead in building this nurse call system. What you see as a picture on the right hand side is our nurse call system. So we designed and built it on a simple modular switch. Therefore, if you already have a slot that is left out for having this on a switch box, we can have this installed, be it as over the wall or be it as a concealed. So what we really did here was try to have or take the best advantage of the state-of-the-art technology of wireless, and then went ahead in building a basic nurse call system. But beyond that, we could kind of do much more than what it is basic nurse call system. For instance, as it is wireless, expansion is very easy. You just go on adding, and all that you need to do is add additional routers. So this uses what is called as local area network, and it is wireless. So you don't really need any internet unless you want to have some kind of communication to the outside world. In typical cases, it is not necessary. Only I'll come to that point when you really need internet. One. Second thing is about, you have multiple floors, and then there are instances where, imagine there is a 3 or 4 floor hospital with 10 or 15 beds in each floor, for instance. Typical hospital I'm talking about, a smaller size nursing homes and the hospitals. This being a mother and child one, I'm kind of quoting this example. So at times the staff is less, and then they want to kind of have all the communication to head nurse room or a matron's room, where the staff would be in the night because they work on the thin staff. So at the time you can have all the communication from each nurse station routed to one monitor, where there could be one or few nurses who kind of monitor. So a flexibility to kind of play around things like this. One. And as you see, as a system, it is just a simple modular base collar switch, and that will have one handheld with a magnetic clamp so that you can kind of hold that and call. And then you can add features like code blue, for instance. And like Dr. Dinakar was mentioning about, there could be an add-on button to call only the housekeeping staff, for instance. You really don't need to call nurse every time to kind of even just to have a additional blanket that you would be asking, or your patients keep asking. So, and then there are this code blue, which is of course a need, as you see from the modern requirement of all the codes that they're talking about. So we could include this, where it can ping to a emergency room where the doctors are always present, that there is some emergency in given bed or given location, and then we could kind of have a doctor's rush there. More importantly, this is on a Linux platform, which is nothing but our mobile technology. So there we can kind of have a lot of other things. The same display can be extended to a mobile. So you can have a given nurse assigned with few beds or few rooms. So only those information will be kind of flashed on the phone that somebody from that particular room is calling. That is one feature. Then you can kind of have some kind of call escalation, for instance. That is when you have, say, for 3 minutes, no nurse is attending to a patient, and there could be a call escalation sent out to whomever that you would assign. This is where we would require internet. So we would kind of be notification to the respective person, 1, 2, 3, or as many as you want, that for last 3 minutes no patient is called and no nurse is attended. So as they say, there are two things that I'm sure most of you would agree. One is that a good food is always by a reference, and visit to a doctor is always by a reference. If I have some condition, some problem that I would want to go, I would not just go and try a doctor. Rather, I will ask some of my friends, family, or neighbors, or whoever who recommend me to a doctor. So these are fine little things. When I have come across this, many doctors who owns the hospital that just say like, these are little things that we would kind of lose our name. The nurse doesn't show up, and patient doesn't get the right care. And this nurse calling system is one basic system that kind of try to mitigate this situation of doctors not or patients are calling and then nurses are not kind of showing up. So we could have these kind of features in our system. The call escalation I was talking about. Second thing is about the analytics. Analytics is something that will kind of help you understand, like, in a given situation, how many times a patient is really calling, or what is the time taken for the nurse to kind of go and attend to the patient, who is the best performing nurse, who is the worst performing nurse. And then this would also help you optimize on the resources that you would want to deploy. In a given situation, should there be 3 or 2 or 4? I mean, this would kind of give you a complete analytics or a 360 degree of how the whole operation is put in place. So as I said initially, we just don't build something for patient convenience or making a wow factor for them, but also improve the productivity part. So that is what we actually bring in this nurse call system. And whoever are coming up with hospitals are looking at expansion, they look at a nurse call system. These are the basic things that you really need to look at. So this, I would just wanted to give, this is a page taken out from Dr. Dinakar's hospital proposal, what we had put. So it's just not the basic nurse call system. This is the real advanced one, what you kind of see here. On the right hand side, it is just not about calling a nurse, but it includes a code blue, and it kind of calls the emergency on a need basis, or push the notification there, or even if you just need a janitor or kind of a help, you can kind of call. And at the back end, it does quite a lot of activities. For instance, it will kind of have that respective doctor a name that is showcased on the display. And then if there is no proper care for this, there could be a program where it pushes a notification to that respective doctor saying like your patient is not taken care and things like that. So these are all stream of features that can be kind of included in our system. As it is, as I said, it is based on Linux and it's openware. We can kind of build, and that has really been our USP in kind of building a system like this one. Next thing is, I was talking about the other system. Okay, here are some small quotes that you see the flip side of having a nurse call system, what you kind of get to see, but these are basic things as you are doctors and you kind of get to see. There's a lot of people who kind of use, misuse, abuse and things like that, but yes, that's part of it. That's something that I leave it to you to kind of see how these things can be addressed, but this is something that we cannot address by technology for sure. So just the other system that I'm going beyond the nurse call system. This is one system that we are again building, that is the video streaming and remote monitoring system. So you have newborns kept in ICU or NICU or PICU, for instance. You could kind of have this PTZ cameras, and then these cameras can be kind of focused onto those kids on a railing system, for instance. But what is important is the backend application that we are developing. So this is something that you can actually moderate to say like, okay, 10 minutes of access, I would kind of give it to those parents or their relatives who actually can see the kid sitting at home. Or if there is a referral doctor who is referred and he or she would want to really see the kid, you can kind of share this. So this is something that your the maintenance team would be able to do. So we are building an application or just viewing this information at the counseling room. You can actually broadcast this images or video to remote monitoring as well. Another system is what I was talking about is Opd Collar. So when you have the patient, for instance, in OPDs coming in for a specific OPD, there you can have this, you can have the token system where these tokens are assigned to a specific OPD, and these OPDs can be managed by the front office. So the front office can manage who would be the doctor who is visiting during this period, and then what is the number of tokens that has been issued to this doctor. And the best part here is the doctor or the attendant to the doctor can call who's the patient next in queue. And they will also get to know how many patients are waiting for them, so they can actually optimize their time between these patients who attend to them. So this is one other system that we are building again for Dr. Dinakar. And this is that medical waste chute system that I was talking about. This is with the space constraint and then considering all other features of cost and then the aesthetics and the application in itself, we are kind of building this system. So there are two different systems. One is only for linen and the other one is for the waste. So the waste, as you know, medical waste has to be treated very differently. And then this is the system that we have with the conveyor. So you would have these bins which can collect. So a lot of interlocks and then the safety features are brought into this waste management system. I think as it takes shape, we would be happy to kind of share more information about this. So that's all from my side. I'm open for questions. If here are my coordinates or where you can reach me. Should you require more information, I'll be happy to help you out. Any questions for me, please?
Prashant?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, just to hold on. Please, Prashant Chintu, hold on.
Yes.
Dr. Prashanth? Yeah. So, just I think so. Mr. Ganesh is here. Ganesh?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Ganesh, can you just, we will take all the questions in the last because there are another two speakers are there. Okay, please. Ganesh, can you go ahead and take the other speaker, please? Can you introduce and request him to go ahead and this thing? Please, Ganesh.
Yeah. 1 second, sir. I will.
And just Mr. Ganesh is owner of GenWorks, number one. More than anything else, he is the one backbone for our all all our webinars. Not only designing, not only supporting, not only giving a human support with us. I mean, everything Anviti is taking care of everything. We are all just an instrumental things. More than anything else, Ganesh is a good human being. And he is really, I don't know how to tell. Whatever in a medical things we need regarding gynecology, neonatal things, and ultrasound, X-ray, CT scan, MRI, everything we can go through him. He will guide us. Whatever our talk is there. So I requested him, how can we start the hospital? See what I am getting the information and the knowledge many people should get also. When I was talking with him, he told, sir, why can't we conduct webinars? Such that whoever interested doctors do come and they will sit and learn. So because at this webinar platform, whoever the interested doctor, they will get it free of cost. Otherwise, who will teach about the financial? Who will teach about the nursing calling system and biomedical wastage and what is it? All those things with a cheaper price, and people are there. And not only this is the first session. Next session will be usually how to buy the equipments. What are the equipments we need for the gynecological side, surgical side, as well as orthopedical side, as well as the neonatal side. Everything he bought so many people, sir. These people are good. These people will everything they are going to tell to your doctors. So thank you, Ganesh, once again. Over to you, Ganesh.
So thank you, sir. Thanks for the nice words. And obviously, it is your brainchild and your vision and your big heart to make sure that people do learn the right things and don't do anything that will either cost more or be less efficient in terms of patient care and delivery. I think that's the biggest reason why you and Dr. Prashanth and NN of Karnataka have taken this big initiative. We are very happy to be a small part of this. And it also gives me pleasure now to welcome Dr. Ram Krishnan. He's from SKS Hospital, Salem, and he's a very well-known neonatologist. And more than his neonatology, which is well known, expertise that is well known. He's one who believes in transparency, accountability, and delivering care, which for newborns, and in the most in the most transparent way, which means that it has to be digitized. So he's a big believer of digitization, and he has co-developed, if I'm right, Dr. Ram Krishnan, if I think I'm correct in what I'm saying, he has co-developed this very good EMR system, which I had a chance to, experience.
Yes,
He showed me, he explained and demonstrated to me. I think as a doctor and as a neonatologist, and being a part of development of this product, he has made sure that there's nothing that's left to chance. He has really taken care of everything, which obviously now he will explain, and I'm sure it's benefiting a lot of babies in his hospital, and I think they are also giving it to many other hospitals. And what was very interesting to me was how the cost of care can come down and quality can go up, and it also makes sure of specialist access available every time. These are the three things which fundamentally drive healthcare delivery, which we don't have as much as we should in our country. And thanks to Dr. Ramakrishnan, he has been able to put this together. And without much ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Ramakrishnan and request him to talk about the solution.
Dr. Prashanth?
thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Prashanth, you are there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dr. Ram is there.
It got cut and then I had to rejoin again.
No problem. Ganesh is introduced Ram in a nice way. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ram, you are so nice, man. So polite, so gentleman, so humble, so straightforward. As Ganesh told, innocent more than anything else. You are really helpful person. I am not boasting you. I am telling from my heart. Number one, I am telling from my heart. Okay. And second thing, and I have seen quite a few people who developed electronic medical records, but the way he developed electronic medical records for the NICU, I don't know anybody can develop or not. So
I've
neat,
seen plenty,
so
sir.
nice.
There is none. There is none,
None.
sir. There is none in India as of now. The amount of feature what he has, like we can
Okay.
take all the data within 5 minutes. I don't think
Yes.
anybody in India, any software is even near to his software.
Yes. So Ram, are you here?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I know that your support
Yes.
is Suresh. Suresh is also we called. He
Yes,
is super brain, super computer. His brains are super computers. We know that very well, dear. So over to Ram.
He is a Shakuntala Devi of hospital management, sir.
That's
I
right.
think
Suresh is
we're running
Shakuntala
late,
Devi.
so let's get on with the conference, guys.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sir.
sir.
And we have another panelist also, Dr. Naga Nischal. He is one of our very, very close friend. Earlier, he had worked in Columbia Hospital. Now he's with Cloud9 Hospital. Even he has got fantastic knowledge about running of the hospital. All of them will be there for the discussion. I request all the attendees not to miss even 1 minute of the session. Over to you, Dr. Ram.
Thank you very much, everybody, for giving a very fantastic introduction. I'm very, very humbled, and I am very pleased to be part of your team to do this presentation. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So my topic is all about electronic medical records, and I would like to thank the organizing team for giving me an opportunity to speak in front of you. So as Dr. Dinakar said, I work at SKS Hospital at Salem in South India, just very close to Bangalore. So that's good. So what I will do is, to begin with, I will start on some basics on paper records. So what we do currently now all over the world. And then I will take you to electronic medical records. I call it as digital neonatal care. And then I will go through the problems that the world has faced in implementation of electronic medical records and how to overcome that. And whenever it comes to digital technology, the problem is the cost. So I will also give you some data on what happens to the cost over the long-term period. And then it's not only data collection, how are we going to deal with the data? So I will touch upon briefly on machine learning and its usefulness. And we all know, as practicing neonatologists and pediatricians, that drug errors are quite common, and ways to minimize drug errors and how to save lives. That is quite important. And we all have lots of trainees under our care. And it's not only storing data, but how to retrieve them and use it purposefully for research and all those things. That is also covered in this brief talk. And then, not the least, everyone is worried about the safety and the security of the data stored. And Indian government has come up with fantastic Indian standards. I will briefly touch upon data security as well. So with this, I will conclude by a short message at the end. So coming to the first part, the paper records. So this is what happens in most places of the world. We all write handwritten records. The problem is sometimes, I find it difficult to understand my own handwriting, right? And then what happens is these records, they're not done systematically. And then they're finally stored in this medical records department for years together. Currently in India, we have to store these for 7 years, whereas in the Western world, we have to store it for 21 years. And imagine the cost of these spaces where it gets stored, the building cost, the space cost, and the manpower cost to bring notes from here or to store the data, store the files here. It's quite humongous. And as I discussed, there is no standardization in paper data entry. There are medical legal issues with illegible handwriting. Information retrieval is difficult, so performing audits and research becomes tricky. Information analysis is difficult, and the cost of storing paper document increases over years. So this is the traditional way of writing the investigations. The prescription are handwritten in different colors, and then the baby's observations are handwritten, including the heart rate, blood pressure. And once this goes to the medical records department, this data goes waste. It cannot be used properly. And not only that, after the honeymoon period, the newly married couples, right? They will always fight. There will be always fight. And, you get into periods where there is no talking to each other. Similarly, warning systems cannot be implemented on paper records because these don't talk to each other. Prevention of drug errors before it happens cannot happen. And automatized checklists are not possible with paper records all the time. So how to get away from this? So the best way to get away from all these things is you have to start with the EMR. EMR is electronic medical record, or otherwise it's called electronic health record. Basically, it's a digital version of traditional paper-based records. Now, people often get confused between an EMR and a hospital information system. See, the hospital information system is completely different. Basically, it deals with the billing, pharmacy, the availability of bed spaces, and all those things. But what I'm going to talk is basically an electronic version of medical records that we use in clinical management. The moment I say EMR, what happens is most of the doctors, this is the response that you get, because doctors feel that it's quite tedious to implement technology, and many doctors and nurses feel that paper records are easier and better to maintain and manage. Why fear EMR? That's because the hospital management, they feel that EMRs are expensive, we cannot afford. And the users feel that it takes time to learn, and there is a fear of transition. And the third one, the doctors and the nurses feel that they are not medical clerks. They're not data entry clerks. They don't want to enter the data. And then many people worry about the safety and security issues. And some people blame it on technology and they don't want to move forward. Coming to the implementation bit. What is the main problem in implementation? So this is a study which was published in the US in 2009. In Michigan, they tried to implement this electronic medical records, and they failed implementation in 2003. And the lessons they learned was, right from the beginning, the physicians and the nurses had a negative attitude from the start. And they felt that the nurses, they were nursing the computer rather than the baby. And they felt that the ward round times were all delayed by 47%. And problems like computer lag time, failed server, and improper backup, they all resulted in failed implementation. So they returned back to paper document again for 2 years. And then they did a fishbone analysis of why it failed. And they found out that education, workload analysis, unit culture, and equipment, sorting out all these four resulted in better implementation. And the solutions they came out was education. There will always be somebody in your department who has more technological knowledge than others. So basically you have to use them, train them first, and then ask them to train the other person. And the big thing is to eliminate or minimize data entry by the concept called automation. So I will come to that in a minute. And not the least, 24-hour technical support should be available whenever you're trying to implement electronic medical records. And the study also found out that the large computer screens were better than handheld computers in establishing good implementation techniques. So coming to automation. So as I told you, many doctors and nurses, they don't want to become data entry clerks. So automation reduces data entry. So I'll just give you it promotes implementation. I'll just give you the concept. So here is a baby who is being cooled in a Mira cradle. And this is the monitor which is connected to the baby, which gives all the information. And this is the ventilator connected to the baby. This is the syringe pump. And you have the blood gas machine, which you depend on for all your blood gas analysis. And then your laboratory services, where all these equipments are used to analyze. And then you have the doctor's notes, the nurse's notes, and the prescription. And then you have your images, X-rays, CTs, and the cardiac MRI, and all those things. So what happens is, all these devices currently, they don't talk to each other. Now, with the EMR that we have developed, all these things, they talk to each other by the form of an Internet of Medical Things. We call it as an IOMT device. The green structure that is shown there, it's the IOMT device. So all these structures, all these equipments, basically, they talk to each other with the help of this IOMT device. And then this IOMT device is connected to the computer, which collects all the data. So I'll just show you a brief video. So basically, what happens here is, this is your IOMT device, and this has multiple ports on the side, and you can connect your saturation monitor to the IOMT device, and the data automatically goes in there. Your blood pressure device gets connected to this, and instead of the nurse writing down the blood pressure, the data automatically goes in, and the ECG leads are connected to this. So basically everything is connected to this. And on your computer screen, you get whatever you see on the baby's monitor. So this is the display that you get from what data that you get. So where are we now at SKS? So at SKS, we went partially paperless from the year 2012, and all the doctors' notes were made paperless from the year 2012. So we have 8 years of data from our units, neonatal units stored and analyzed. And this EMR, basically we have to remember, it was created by neonatologists for neonatologists. Now there is a big difference in a computer person. There is no disrespect to computer person, but the computer person designing and giving it to be used by us is different from a neonatologist sitting and creating his own, because at the end of the day, the neonatologist is the end user of this product. And then the nurses documentation is also currently fully developed with quality indicators, NICU networking, and benchmarking. Everything is fully developed and it's tested and ready to be used. So where are we? The devices, we started integration and automation from mid 2019, and we also are collecting big data analysis and started to report on it. So this is the Opd product. This is the landing page of it, which is a simple screen design which takes you to different sort of rooms where you want to operate. And then this is the data entry form. Some of them are still manual, but majority of them are getting replaced by automated data entry. And simple touch screen models rather than complicated data entry, because this user-friendly touch screen data entry is all well liked by the doctors and the nurses. And then once the data is put in, instantly the discharge summaries are generated. You don't need to sit and type your discharge summary. The summaries are generated automatically with different system-wise details, and there are provisions for you to edit this. Not only that, the annual report, similar to your bank statement, you select your start date and you select your end date. And then, boom, you get your annual report. So the annual reports, they are basically generated instantly. The advantage with this is the simplicity and the ease to use it. Automation minimizes manual entry. It automatically calculates the day of life, corrected gestation, automatically calculates input, output, and nutrition, develops instant discharge summaries, annual reports, quality indicators, and the baby profile and the details are carried over to the outpatients clinic and also whenever the baby gets readmitted. Automatically generated growth charts and vaccine reminders. So these are the features. Now, we also want to remotely monitor all these things. So with all the data captured, this is also possible where you monitor and act remotely. So coming to the cost, many CFOs and CEOs, they worry about the cost. Now, coming to the cost analysis, there are lots of studies which says that the initial cost is high, but as time goes on, the cost of electronic medical records are cheaper than the paper records. You can see in this that by the time 2011, 12, and 13 years have come, the cost of the paper records, the clear bars, when compared to the gray bars, the cost of maintaining it is very, very high, whereas, it's all in negative, whereas the profit that is made on the electronic medical system is positive. And it takes about 6 to 8 years from the time of implementation to get that cost. But after that 6 to 8 years, it's all in positive. The cost benefit cost ratio is 1.23, and it's in positive balance of $3,600. And similarly, many studies Wang et al., Barlow et al., they all showed that there is positive financial return of income and improvement in revenue. Right? Hello? Can you hear?
We can
hear some
yes,
background
Singh, can you
noises.
mute?
No, Prashanth, you
Can you
can
mute?
mute.
Can you
You
mute?
can mute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Individually, we'll mute, sir. One second.
Okay. So not only this, unaccounted costs of improved quality of care and reduced medical errors and associated litigation costs. These are very, very important as well. What's happening in the rest of the world? Italy went paperless from 2001. Korea went paperless from 2003. And the USA went paperless from 2009. And in the UK, they went nationally paperless from 2007. And currently, 100% of the UK neonatal units are paperless. And so far, 8 lakh babies are entered into the NNRD in the UK. And 20,000 babies are added every 4 months. And what is machine learning? Now, we have captured lots and lots of data. And with this data, we can do lots of wonders. For example, we have installed also this hero score monitoring at SKS. So we are sending our data to the United States where they incorporate their algorithm. And from that algorithm, we generate the hero scores. So with this, we are able to detect sepsis. Neonatal sepsis can be detected even 48 to 72 hours before the child gets worse. When the hero scores are high, what happens is we change the antibiotics, we screen the babies, and we prevent the child from deterioration. So this is the advantage of big data that you capture from all your monitor. And this hero trial, which has already proved in the past that there is 22% reduction in the mortality when you implement all these algorithm-based machine learning. And also, not only this, there is a possibility that hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy prediction is better with automated heart rate variability features that this continuous data provides. I will skip through the slides, and then not only this, simple things like the retinopathy of prematurity. The Indian Journal of Ophthalmologists published that these 3 data collected automatically from your database, birth weight, gestational age, and weekly weight measurements, automatically predicts the infants who will require treatment for ROP. And this has a 90% sensitivity. So unless you have electronic medical records, these things are difficult to get implemented. And the current ongoing studies are you can predict whether the babies can be extubated successfully based on predictive algorithms generated from your bedside parameters from the ventilator and all those things. And also from your abdominal histography, the obstetricians may be able to differentiate between term and preterm records based on artificial intelligence. So coming to the drug errors. So you imagine your child's creatinine is very high and you're about to give you a gentamicin dose. Now with EMR that is linked to the lab, what happens is the moment the lab types in the report that the creatinine is 1.5, you get an automated warning system in your computer system saying that this baby's creatinine is high. Please consider switching to a non-toxic medication or reduce the dose of the gentamicin. So you can minimize drug errors in ordering medications, transcribing medications, dispensing medications, and administering medications. Imagine a nurse wants to administer amikacin, and if 24 hours has not passed from the previous dose, it will automatically tell you that this is prescribed for 24 hours. Why do you want to administer at 12 hours itself? So these are the advantages of electronic medical records that helps you in preventing all these adverse effects. Now, the sensitivity with algorithm detected drug errors, minimizing algorithm detected drug errors is around 82%, and the precision is 70% when compared to paper reported incidents of 5% and 50%. Clearly, the electronic devices do better when compared to the paper devices. And coming to the data retrieval and the quality of data retrieval. So in the UK, they did a study in 2018. So they retrieved the data from the databases for their PIPS study and all those big studies. And also they looked at the National Statistics, Office for the National Statistics, where they maintain paper records. And they found out that the specificity of the data that was obtained from the electronic medical records was more than 85% for all the outcomes, which is definitely better than paper records. Now, coming to the security and the standards, the Indian government has beautifully described the Indian standards regarding data security and the safety of the electronic medical records. And all we have to ensure that whichever electronic medical records that we are buying, we have to ensure that they follow the safety precautions. Number one is the HL7, which is the Health Level 7 International Safety Precaution, where basically, if this is incorporated into your EMR, I can easily transfer the data from one electronic medical record system developed by one software company to another one very easily without going through any hassles. And also the systematized nomenclature of medical clinical terms, which is the SNOMED CT. This is a fantastic invention by the international technology and the medical guys, where they have created a standard definition or a description of each and every medical term. So that, say, for example, if my software says BP and your software says blood pressure, both these software will know that they're meaning the same if SNOMED CT is incorporated into their system. So ensure that this structured clinical vocabulary is available for electronic medical records or electronic health record. And not only this, logical observation identifiers, names and codes, which is the LOINC, which is the definitive standard for identifying clinical information, should also be incorporated into the medical records. And then the International Classification of Diseases, ICD code, should also be incorporated. And the digital communication standards are also there, DICOM for medical images and medical device interfacing. And the patient identifiers like standard identification like Aadhaar cards and the local identifier, photo identity cards will be captured to ensure that the data is not, is compatible with that baby only and not with anybody else. So, basically, we started off with these bullock carts, and then came the transition to the cars when we all felt that it's expensive, cannot afford, takes time to learn, unsafe, and initial cars had many teething problem. And then we were using, progressing from these to these ambassadors few years ago. And now currently we are going fully digital, and with these sort of Tesla automated cars, which is driving our technology-based, artificial intelligence-based things. This is our future. And so the take-home message is change is essential. We have to embrace change with open hands and mind. Necessity is the mother of invention. Electronic health record is the way forward. So this is my contact number. I will show you some screenshots of our neonatal database that we currently use. And this will not take a longer time. So this is our so this is how it looks. And what happens is The internet is slightly slow at my home. It works better with the hospital server. So if I select a baby, basically it stores all the days this baby was with us for 32 days, and I will be able to view the graphical screen of all the data that was captured in this baby. And say if I want to have a look at the heart rate, so this is the data of the heart rate that I capture, right? This baby for all the 32 days, I can see it in a graphical form, and it will tell you exactly, right, what is the median, what is the interquartile range, what is the range, all those details. And similarly, all the data, the blood pressure, all those data automatically come to this. And not only that, the nurses' records. So instead of handwriting everything, the nurses' charts are also automatically filled in. You can see that the baby's heart rate, temperature, blood pressure, everything automatically comes up from the data. So the nurses don't need to write anything on hand, right? And the ventilator data automatically comes. What is the amplitude? What is the peak settings? What is the mean airway pressure, frequency, whatever, on an hourly basis, it gets automatically calculated. Thank you. This is just a snapshot. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to accept any questions if you have any. Thanks for giving me an opportunity.
Thanks, Ram.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
one more thing I would like to.
Hello, I can't hear.
Prashanth?
Of his legs, but still he gave a lecture, showing that how committed he is and how good and how humble he is. On behalf of NNF Karnataka and our entire team, we're very, very thankful to you in spite of you going through this stressful situation with your father having an injury. Still, you gave a talk. Thank you very much for that. Now we'll move on to the
Thank
next
you.
talk. And we all pray that your father recovers faster.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ram, once again from the entire team of NNF Karnataka. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kotesh is.
Hello, sir. Sir, I've got one question.
Sir?
I'm very thankful for your kind attention of drawing the preventive aspect more, I think. The early diagnosis of sepsis itself is the indicator of prevention only. So that babies can be well survived with early detection of sepsis, you mean. So all the records, whatever they take, everything should be authenticated, should be properly managed in watershed. It's a very good idea of how to show the run of the ICUs and prevention of mortality for the prevention of damage to the baby itself. Very thankful for your kind information, sir.
Yeah. Thank
Ram,
you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kotesh, sir. We'll move on to the next talk. So I request Mr. Ganesh. Ganesh ji, are you around?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, we are there, sir. Yes.
Can you give a brief introduction about our next speaker, Dr. Suzaka Varanasi, who has done such tremendous thing, and then we will start the lecture. After this particular talk, third talk, we will take up the discussion part. Over to you, Ganesh.
Sure, sir. Thank you. I think it's a big privilege for me to introduce Dr. Suzaka Varanasi. Dr. Sudhakar, is completed his education at IIT Kharagpur. Sorry, I think there's some disturbance. Okay.
So can you unmute yourself, sir? Ganesh, sir, can you unmute?
Hello? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, yes.
Is the noise from my side? Can you hear?
Yes, hear you, Ganesh.
Yeah, sorry. So, Sudhakar, I think it's, I don't know from where the noise is coming. Is it from my
Prashanth?
end?
No. Prashanth? Prashanth,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have muted, sir.
I think so. You please unmute. Mute Prashanth Gowda. Mute Prashanth Gowda. I think so. Voice is coming. Disturbance is coming from his mobile.
Yeah, yeah.
Mute him. Then Ganesh can talk.
Okay, so now can we hear?
Yes, Ganesh, please.
Okay. Sorry, I think, sorry for the disturbance. It's a privilege to introduce Dr. Suzaka Varanasi. He's a good friend and he's our mentor. He completed his education at IIT Kharagpur and obtained a PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. After 17 years serving IISc, he moved to the corporate world and joined the IT wave in India in 1991. He was the founding director of Tiger Software and then moved to Satyam Computer Services. He started EMRI in 2005, and what we see today as the 108 was his brainchild. It's not just his brainchild, but he put that to action when many did not believe a service like that would be possible. He has stories to tell about how he made it work. I think that will take the whole day. So, without much ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Suzaka Varanasi. Over to you, sir.
Sir, you should.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ganesh, for that generous introduction. After two brilliant speakers today, I hope to be able to do some justice, which is not going to be easy because the other two have spoken with tremendous passion, and the competence that they have brought to this field of medical healthcare IT systems is enormous. So, but on the other hand, beautiful thing is that they have made my job a little easier in talking because they gave introduction to the hospital health systems and also to the EMR, their patient records and the requirements of data moving from one place to another, our ability to get insights from the data, a large amount of data that's already there in the computer systems. With that, my job is a little easier, but I do understand that there are many doctors here who may not know some of the computer terminology with which some of us in the computers field are very familiar, just as we in the computers field are not familiar with many of the terms and the jargon that is used by doctors. Here is a beautiful interface which will be enhanced by both people participating and enhancing the knowledge. It is my responsibility to explain to the doctors and the caregivers the computer terms in rather simple terms, in simple ways, so that they can relate to that and understand how they can help each other with the healthcare, given the fact that there are hospital information management systems and hospital management information systems. Hospital management can be done as information system that includes beyond patient care, things like the staff management, HR, finance, billing, and insurance records, and so on. But hospital information system is primarily about the our ability to provide great service to the patients that come in large numbers. How do we make it more efficient and help us deal with a very large amount of information that gathers on the patients over a large period of time in a safe and secure manner and in an efficient way so that we can retrieve it. In order to do this, my first slide is, can we go to the next slide, please, Anviti? Yeah, so I'll try and give healthcare and its infrastructure the big picture. Okay, the next slide, please. So what is important is to take a look at a little step back and see where we were before these computer systems came into the picture. I realize I have a finite amount of time. I want to move quickly. Anviti, next slide, please. Prashanth Gowda, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you very much. So let's take a slightly historic view of what has happened. If you look back at some 20 years ago, or even 25 years ago, I distinctly remember many hospitals, including, of course, definitely big hospitals and government hospitals. There were mostly, when the patients came, there were records. Somebody entered into large registers, the name of the patient, the age of the patient, the address of the patient, and so on. A lot of information, and the patient symptoms when they went to the doctor. A large amount of information was collected into the books and stored away in ledgers, which is very difficult to retrieve, not only because of the handwriting problems for the people who enter the data, but also because it's very difficult to go back to a particular date and ask for a name of a patient and then search for that name of the patient in various records. There's no indexing system for the names and for the telephone numbers and so on. So everything becomes extremely tedious to get back to a particular patient who came on the 13th of last month, for instance, and took some thing and we have not heard from him and we want to find out what is happening to his case. It's very difficult to retrieve that information. So people moved into small, simple computer systems at each doctor's place. Typically, we had a Microsoft XT or AT systems. And then that records the information of the patient that was there instead of on books and cards and so on. That was easier to deal with. But then if you wanted to move that data to another doctor who is probably in the same hospital, but in another site, let's say a cardiologist who needs to examine the same patient after you have examined him for some diabetic problem. That time, it's very difficult to transfer the data from this computer to that computer. So that's how the local area networks evolved. What it meant was moving information of the patients and the data about the patient into and moving across to another computer in the same building is called local area. To cut the long story short, once we managed to take care of a large hospital with several rooms where the data of one patient from one place to another can be moved, one doctor to another doctor can see the patient information can be seen, then the rest of it is history, because if you can do it from one computer to another computer, it's not difficult to do it from one building to another building and one city to another city, one country to another country. Those are the evolution, those are the things that evolved over a period of time. So we moved from local area networks, usually inside the same building, to wide area networks up to probably an entire city sometimes. And also our metropolitan networks, MANs, metropolitan area networks. And then finally, when the internet came and it's possible to move anything to anybody. It's an amazing amount of transition that just happened. For those of you who have been a part of that earlier systems, Dr. Prashanth Chinta was talking about it earlier, you required huge rooms to keep all the old records, the ledgers and so on. Nobody ever looked into it, but just in case it is needed for legal or whatever requirement or audit requirements, you had to maintain them. It was fairly useless system, but quite a burden on the doctors. So we moved from there. Wonderfully, in our lifetime, we have seen a huge amount of improvements that have helped the system. Next slide, please. So there are two words that I would like to introduce. One is on-premise and cloud-based systems. On-premise means wherever the doctors or the hospitals are, you have computer systems that are localized there. And you can have an entire system for all the doctors, the HR system, the management of the billing, management of the insurance records, management of the patient records for legal reasons or for research purposes. Sometimes people want to know the case histories of several, let's say, aged female patients who have come to this hospital with a diabetes problem. Now, age may be defined as 60 plus is aged, and you have to search through all this data. It's now possible to do it in the computers beautifully. It is a stroke of a button. What made this possible is the digitization, a couple of technologies. First is digitization. But those of you who just, it is digitization that made the entire internet revolution possible in this world. Anything that happens somewhere far away, some incident, let's say in New Zealand, can be transmitted across to our living rooms into the television because of the digital network. The medical information and so much other information that flows across the world instantaneously or virtually instantaneously is because data is digitized. What it means is it put into a form in which it can be transmitted without loss of fidelity, without any distortion. If I transmit number 25 to your computer, it should come there as 25 and not be around 24, 23, none of those things. It's precise and it accurately gets transported there. If you can do it for a number and for a letter, you can do it for anything, any other information. If I can take a picture and break it down into small digits, pixels, and transmit that information across, then the fidelity of the information is assured. The beautiful part of it was the digitization of the data. What is data? Any letter, any data, any number, any letter, any picture, any graph, any kind of information that's continuously comes as in the digitized form can be transmitted in beautiful ways, in very highly reproducible ways. That leaves us to the next. One of the requirements is, okay, I can transport the data to any place, not just to another doctor in the same building, another doctor in another city, but another country and so on. Let's look at things like tourism, business travel, and medical tourism. What these require is, let's say I'm just a tourist or a business person, I'm visiting Netherlands, and I got into an accident there, and people need to know my previous records about my heart condition. There seems to be a pacemaker there. There seems to be other things. Before doing anything with me, they want to know a little bit about my past history, medical history. And that's not possible because I can't be traveling either on business or on tourism with all kinds of medical information with me all the time. But today, because of the digitization, it's entirely possible to transport this information at a short notice, taking care of the security aspects, and transmit that information to the doctor who is attending on me, let's say in Netherlands. And that is possible because of the digitization, and we have the patient record authentically, they can be transmitted, provided the security precautions are taken, like passwords. And but where is this information stored? It can be stored in any kind of storage medium, but let us say in the case of India, we can store it in digital lockers. Government of India gives us some amount of space to store some vital information for each citizen in this country. And the plan is to provide auto lockers. I can access that information from anywhere in the world, with provided I have a little bit of memory of what is my password and so on. In case I am not in a conscious position, somebody close to me can open that, provided, let's say, my wife can operate that. So digitization provides this tremendous possibility, which was unthinkable just a few years ago, for every person in this country to have the medical data on a need basis, to open it to any doctor for a fixed small amount of period of time. This is to misuse to avoid misusage of the data. the certain precautions are taken. Dr. Ram Krishnan talked about HL7. If we get to that level of certification, level of compliance, we can be assured that the kind of data that we have will be protected carefully. But it takes some doing, it takes some time to get used to it. We have made in India tremendous progress compared to where we were in many areas, like banking, for instance. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Anviti? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So for instance, now telemedicine is another important current trending. Now we talked about the past and recent trends. Let's now look at the currently trending. Because of the COVID, government decided, and wisely in my opinion, to move away from restrictions on telemedicine. Telemedicine, I did a project from 15 years ago, connecting villagers to the mainstream, to the doctors in the cities and towns nearby. Because a villager, if he or she has to travel with a sick child or sick elderly person who is vomiting or is in pain, all the way to the hospitals in poorly connected areas, it's extremely difficult for them, very painful, very resource intensive. It's not easy for them to move patients there. All this to get at the end of it, they may get just a antipyretic or antibiotic medicine or anti-pain medicine. And just for that, if they have to take an old elderly man who is shivering and who is in pain or who is having vomitings, to take the person all the way to the hospital in a town or city in a poorly connected transportation system is a very painful thing. All that can be avoided by putting a little web camera and a TV at the village, for one TV and one web camera for entire village. And we transported that information to connected them to the doctor. The doctor could see the patient and patient could see the doctor, thereby enabling diagnosis or at least a medical advice to be given without anybody having to travel a long distance. That reduces the carbon footprint. It's a great convenience for patients as well as doctors. And also remember that when COVID-19 came, if I see a doctor, if I go to see a doctor, maybe I'll be transmitting my COVID status to him, or maybe he will be giving it to me. We don't know what happens because none of the we can be asymptomatic carriers of the virus. So it's safer to keep the patient at a distance and then examine. Even if I'm in the same building as the doctor, it's better to see it on a TV screen. And he can probably look at the throat, let's say a little tumor on my throat, much closer, because on a computer system, he can blow it up, you can zoom it, which he cannot do when he is looking at me directly. So there are beautiful advantages in a telemedicine system, and I'm glad government has legalized it and is actually encouraging it. It's amazing. And an elderly person with a severe back pain, if he doesn't have to go to the hospital to see the doctor, from the convenience of his own home today, if he can show it to the doctor and doctor can ask him to make some moves and then make his assessment and then prescribe the medicine or the medical advice on movement and exercise, how much easier it will be for both the patient and the doctor. It's an enormous. I have a feeling that even if coronavirus goes away and we become used to moving normally, these telemedicine systems that we are now getting used to, have gotten used to. In fact, a large number of people are using it now, and its prevalence will only continue. Once that happens, people don't want to necessarily go physically and see the doctors, nor do the doctors want to necessarily see the patients in a physical time. In some cases, it will be necessary. Yes, any surgery or procedure requires it. That's fine. At least some part of the load can come down. And a lot of simple questions of whatever happened in the doctor may give some medical advice, and the patient at the end of his nervous period with the doctor, because he's in pain, he may not remember all the details that medical advice that was given to him. So in a telemedicine situation, you should be able to record that information, whatever doctor said about tablet to be taken 3 times a day or 2 times a day, the patient may not remember it then, or his relatives may not remember. But if he replays that record, he will have the entire information. So there are lovely advantages to the whole thing in using telemedicine system. Which I'm next slide, please. I'll move a little faster because already we're at 6:53. Telemedicine is a wonderful thing. Then digital health, big vision. The government is having enormously big vision for the country. Let me tell you, if some of you believe it may not happen in India soon, I can tell you that if the government makes up its mind, and if the hospital administrators and visionary doctors take the lead in this one, there is enough technology available thanks to Aadhaar. Once Aadhaar has established the identity of the people and unique identity of the people, we can put many other things along with it. Today, these linked systems are very powerful, and there are many things that we can do. For instance, National Health Mission, we used to have National Urban Mission and National Village Mission were combined into National Health Mission some years ago. And then now it's National Digital Health Mission. I believe the health department, central government has made tremendous differences. We'll have soon disease surveillance. I don't have time to go. Anything happen, let's say there are 5 cases of malaria reported from South Canara. The government at the center should know that malaria is likely to spread from there. Take some preventive actions before it becomes 2,000 cases of malaria, that means it's hitting the epidemic proportions. But we need to know this ahead of time, not after it's too late. So that all those things are possible. Those of you who are cynical that it will happen in our times, just look at this cell phone story. In 1980s, I had friends who relocated from United States and UK to India, and they went back, unfortunately, because they could not even get a telephone for love or money. They were willing to spend money, but only MPs could allocate some quota system, a few telephones. And these are landlines, which didn't even work properly, but even that was not easy to get. Today, my maidservant has two cell phones. I don't know what she does with the 2 cell phones, but she has 2 cell phones. So this is the kind of transformation that actually happened in just a couple of decades. And having seen that, I'm confident that entire healthcare system of this country can be brought beautifully into a different gear altogether, a different orbit altogether. Actually, I had a very interesting discussion with Balaji of the Genworks organization. He said, in the last 30, 40 years, we have seen computerization of the banks has made tremendous difference to the customer. We can, in the middle of the night, I want to know what is the balance, or I want to transfer some money to my son who is in some emergency mode. I can do that. It was unthinkable some years ago. The kind of conveniences we have all as customers of banks attained. Balaji said, can we have the same kind of customer benefits accruing to the patients? In this case, the customers are patients, and the customers will get much better healthcare services in the next few years' time. My answer is that is just the thing that Prime Minister's office and Health Minister's office in the center are thinking about. From my personal knowledge, I can tell you that this is the line of thinking that they have. We should be able to transform this field, and just as we did in telecom sector, we did it in banking sector. There's no reason why we cannot do it in healthcare systems. You can already see the benefits of this. It's already happening. But if we understand the basic tenets and around which it works, what are the critical success factors, which are the critical failure factors, if we understand, we don't need to know the technology in great detail. There are enough technologists in this country. One of the most beautiful things that happened to India is it was considered in the 80s as a very backward country. Today is considered as one of the superpowers of software today. That's the reputation we got. Certainly we are big, and there are many things we are capable of doing. All we need is a centralized purpose. And if we repurpose ourselves, we'll be able to do this, is my feeling. Okay, next slide, please. there are some amazing things happening in AI and ML. I think some of them were pointed out by Dr. Ram. You can look at retinopathy. You can analyze the retinal formations in a computerized image. What you cannot see even a human with a human eye can be seen as data patterns when you plot it on a in AI data map, and you can see the patterns which will lead or are correlated strongly to the presence of some cardiovascular disease. Imagine you're looking into a retina and your computer is analyzing and telling you that there may be early stages of some cardiovascular problem that's happening. And that's amazing. It's happening in so many ways. The computers who can be trained to see what the disease is much ahead of human brain can see it, because computers' ability to see a billion record is far more than human beings' ability to see a billion records and classify the data or correlate the data or negatively correlate and say they are not correlated. That ability is just unsurpassable by human brain. But human brain has other abilities, including writing the programs that can do this. So therefore, we have to learn to work with the computer systems, AI and ML. I can take a whole day talking about it. What is it that's possible in this world, in the healthcare area? People who cannot speak anymore because of some diseases like ALS. There have been some famous cases. Now they are able to talk almost like what they were able to talk, even though muscles haven't improved, because the AI and ML have learned how to resynthesize their speeches. There are many, many other medical feats that have been done. Cancer diagnosis can be done faster than any other specialist in that field because of the certain algorithms that have been developed that do this beautifully. For lack of time, I will go on to the next one. I'm assuming that 7 o'clock it's already. May I request to the organizers to give me another 2 or 3 minutes more? Hello. Yeah, I'll
Yes,
talk.
Sir, you can take 10 minutes. There is no problem.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to stay my welcome, because doctors rarely get a Sunday evening, and I don't want to. I'll just take this. I want to give one end with a good example, my opinion. ICU connectivity. One of the questions that was asked, I was actually asked by the principal secretary in Karnataka, health secretary. She asked me a question some time back, a couple of years back. Why is our tertiary hospital bill so high, especially with ICU? I happen to have thought about this problem for some time earlier, prior to that, so I was able to respond to that, saying it has something to do with the architecture. That I'm not talking of greed and all those commercial parameters, but just look at the way how we can completely remodel this system. What do we have today in the ICUs? We have the following. Let's say there are 10 beds in the ICU, one room, let's say, and there may be 300 other rooms like that in the city of Bangalore, just to give you an idea. And each of these 10 beds hospital rooms, ICU units, will have 4 or 5 monitors around it. They will be monitoring either PQRST wave for the echocardiogram or some other parameters that maybe SpO2, maybe some other blood pressure or whatever that's appropriate for the case. There are monitors. And when the people in the middle of the night, when the whole room is darkened and they can't see anything else, they keep seeing this, the patients keep seeing all the parameters, which mean nothing to them. In fact, it's such a distraction for them, such a scary thing for them. We allow all these monitors to produce data, which is of no use to anybody other than the doctors when they visit. 24 hours, these things are going beep, 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 and so on. Do they mean anything to the nurses? By and large, nothing. The only time the nurse will know is when a red light comes or beep comes, a long alarm comes, then they'll go and alert the doctor or do some preventive care that's in a terminal stage. Most of the time, all the waves that are coming out, all the transmission that's happening is of absolutely no use to anybody in that room, including other patients, including nurses, doctors, and so on. Only the doctor that's actually attending on the thing, that doctor may be somewhere else, and he needs to know. So why can't we design the architecture in this following way? Can we just take the sample, let's say the echocardium signal directly from our heart or wherever the nodes are, electrodes are, and feed it to a IoT device? For each of these patients, just remove all the monitors, all the input signals, feed them to an IoT device. It transmits them all the way to one centralized server in entire Bangalore, let's say. One server or two servers, maybe three servers, can handle the load of all the ICU patients, all the data that's coming in one place. And they can do the number crunching and say, okay, P by Q ratio is like this, or this by this is ratio like this, or this is dangerous situation. They can have alerts and signals generated on the basis of the number crunching that happens at the server level, parallelly to all the 1,000 patients that are in the ICUs of all the people, and transmit it to the required doctors or nurses, so that the doctors or their representatives, whoever they are, maybe duty doctors and ICUs. This way, can you imagine the amount of reduction of effort, cost that happens? Can you imagine the amount of comfort that comes into the ICUs, not having all these extraordinary machines beeping all the time, scaring the hell out of the patients and making them pleasant? And the reduction in this in inefficiency in this one can translate to huge savings. Today, it's a reality. We can do. We can send the signal over a cloud to some other server somewhere in the central Bangalore, and that's it. All the number crunching, instead of doing it right next to the bed, they can be done in one place at the central level. And that's extraordinary savings are possible because of that. That can be translated into better health in the process, better lesser costs and better health for the patients. What's the point in sending that information to a nurse who cannot read PQRST and interpret it in any meaningful way? So let's get smarter about this. And I just gave this example because it touched me that we are seeing old ICUs with redundant information sitting there and not doing any good except to increase costs. This was all right 30 years ago when ICUs were built and they didn't have global connectivity or cloud computing facilities. Today, we'd have those things. It's not difficult. If the government of India takes decision to do that, and everybody pays a part of the server, in just one or two servers, we can manage whole of South India. Is that kind of powerful servers are available? A part of the talk was about to be servers. So I just want to tell you that a supercomputer in the year 2000 cost $50 million. I'll repeat, a supercomputer that was available, only computer that was available, supercomputer available in 2000, with a capability of 1 teraflops. What that means, a very high computing power, teradet floating point operations per second. That many floating point operations it could do. Only one computer, that was cost of it was 50 million, and we tried to buy it in the Indian Institute of Science, and we were not allowed to buy because of certain restrictions. We're not allowed by Americans to sell that. We're not allowed to buy that here because of Pokhran bombing that happened, because of the nuclear explosion. But today, in 2020, we can do the same amount of computation. Let me explain again. In the year 2000, it took $50 million to buy that computer. Today, it's available for $50 in a lunchbox kind of equipment. This is called NVIDIA processor. That kind of processor available. The servers today we have are far more capable than several thousands of computers put together at that point of time. $50 versus 50 million in 20 years' time. Just in 20 years' time, the exponential growth has happened. So we are not short of computing hardware or software today. India has tremendous software capabilities. All we have to do is to learn to put this together in an intelligent way, and doctors like Dr. Dinkar who give requirements, and Dr. Prashanth who sorts the problems out and evolves the solutions in a way that can happen, and Dr. Ram kind of people who can take this information and make it universally available anywhere in the world for any doctor that is legally wanting to see it in a way that's easy to enter, easy to retrieve in a large scale situation like 1 billion people in this country. It's possible if doctors and technologists work together. The technology exists, the possibility exists. We have to now, instead of being cynical, we have to just give you requirements. And there are so many young people who want to take those challenge opportunities, not the kind of difficulties that we have in India with such large population. We can think of them as opportunities, because for an entrepreneur, and many of you are associated with the hospitals, you understand that to run a hospital, you require that entrepreneurial ability to see where we can cut the costs, where we can improve our efficiency continuously, where the doctors and patients get a better deal in the process, and the nation improves and the world improves in the process. It's possible. I would like to say that I often say in my talks that India is a big country. The problems are big, so we have to have big solutions. We can't have big problems and small solutions. If I take care of my maid servant's medical bill, that's nice, that's wonderful, but that's not good enough. There are 1 billion people like that who need that kind of help. So what are the methods of providing big solutions, large scale solutions? There are two main components. One is technology. The other is entrepreneurial ability. People who take risks, people who ask questions, people who look for solutions, who state their problems. Like Dr. Dinkar, when he was building the hospital, he asked some specific questions to Dr. Prashanth Chinta, and their answers came. He said, I'll give it to you in 3 months. That's what I remember from his talk. That means he was actually providing that solution on the basis of what he learned from Japan as a possibility. He may not have solved this problem there. But when a requirement came, because he understands how to put systems together, he was able to give the exact kind of solution that Dr. Dinkar needed to address his particular problems. And once you address it in one hospital, chances are that's required everywhere else. And that's how we have to work together. Technologists and medical requirement care providers have to exchange information. India has all that it takes to do it. We have problems and we have the capability for solutions. Technology exists, the willpower exists, and modern generation have seen, even in how engineering colleges, I've seen people doing brilliant little experiments in a startup mode, or even in the college projects. The kind of innovation that can be unleashed into this country in the educational system to help the large number of problems that we have with an entrepreneurial spirit and with of technology support is really enormous. So with that, I'd like to conclude. I thank the organizers for giving me this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Prashanth?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Dr. Prashanth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is Krishna, sir. He's
Hello.
I think your voice, there is a lot of disturbance. Singh, can you mute rest of the people?
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Kodrashi, sir, can you unmute and speak, sir, now?
Okay. I appreciate the things have latest digital technology has been involved in this present scenario. I would like to say his Aadhaar implementation and cut down the issue charges by digital way. These two things should be clarified. So Aadhaar is the best method. Now it has been taken very good importance. So throughout this Aadhaar, the centralized mechanism of digitalization has been done on the healthcare system, so that all the data is accessible in one point. The use are bright. And regarding prevention of cut down of ICU charges, he has to highlight some of the points how it can be done meticulously, so that the farmer will be benefited from this our newborn care. I thank you very much, sir, for your contribution to our NNF care.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite our panelist, expert panelist, Dr. Nischal. He himself has been a wonderful medical director, and he has huge, vast knowledge about the operation of hospital. We are very glad, and I know him personally from my initial days. So thank you very much, Dr. Nischal, for joining us. And we have Dr. Suresh. I've already told he's the expert in running hospital, and he knows about each and every department. He's one of the best person I have seen who has knowledge about everything. So now I request Dinakar sir to take up the questions, and please initiate the discussion with our panelists and speakers. Over to you, Dinakar sir.
Dr. Prashanth, any Nischal and Suresh, they want to talk anything first, let them talk. Then we will take, there are a lot of questions are there. First, you give the chance to the panelists. Anything they want to talk about, 5 minutes, let them please go ahead and let them also tell, because why we choose them is they are also better in this field. So let them also talk something. Then we'll ask the question.
Let Dr. Lewis start, and then I'll take on from there. Dr. Lewis.
Leslie Lewis, sir.
Yeah, let's see anything you want to add here. Then Nischal will add.
No.
Later, Suresh will add.
I have nothing to add because some of the things are still newer to us because we still not used nursing calling system in our Manipal group. So I can't add. EMR we have started, but it is again limited to a small kind of like OPD services only. We have started with the EMR. We are still not yet started with the our ICU. So I don't have anything to add, but maybe we can take up the questions with the speakers later.
Yeah, Dr. Nischal, you want to add something, Dr. Nischal?
Hi. Thank you, NNF, and thanks, Prashanth, for inviting me. It was what do you say, a digital evening for Sunday. So I have been fortunate that I was in an organization where I was part of the transition of digitalization. So EMR, automation, and IT and medical. I mean, I worked in Columbia for 14 years, where we had the EMR 13 years ago, where Prashanth also worked with us. So all the speakers had a very good view on where we have to. The very clear aspect of this being a risk reduction for mortality or morbidity is a given. As a clinician, we all know the more data we have and the more data that can be analyzed will only give better care to the patient. Now, coming to the aspect of the cost and administrator, I think we are not very far away from the days where hospital administrators or even the investors look at it as a value add and as a cost saving tool, and more so a revenue. So like the saying goes that the data is a new oil. The more data you have, it's like having oil. It's what you make out of. I think as we are transitioning as a clinicians, we should be very conscious of what data we need and what are we going to do with it. So too much of data and having no hold over what you want to do would only end up in just collecting all that. So I think as clinicians, we need to give the input to the IT or the people who put the programming as to how we want it. Like Dr. Ram Krishna was saying that there's nothing better than this being built by a doctor. Then the maker and the doer and the end user is the same. So the adaptation is obviously going to be much better. I was in an era in 2008 when first EMR was pushed to me. I said, look, I'm not a typist. I'm not a computer guy. So from there to now, I can't go back to write on the paper. So I'm sure our clinicians have transitioned, and I don't think it should be an issue of the behavioral, which would take a while, but I'm sure we'll tide over that. And lastly, this is no more an option. I mean, if you think it is an option, then we are quite behind. It is no more an option, it is a necessity, and that would be the future. So the more we embrace and adapt, the better it would be. So I thank all the speakers, and as I said, it was a good digital Sunday. Thank you.
Dr. Suresh?
Yeah, let me take all the
Please.
speakers. I mean, we've had a great list of roster of speakers today, and kudos to the organizers and Prashanth and Dinayal. But let me take the speakers in turn. First was Prashanth, and I really appreciate what Prashanth has done because, I mean, today Made in India is something that everyone is talking about. But 5 years ago, or whenever he came back from Japan, he was a pioneer. And yes, a nurse call system. Earlier in the older hospitals, I'm lucky because I'm a second generation entrepreneur where in my hospital. My father built a hospital and then I've taken over. I've been running it for the last 20 years. But earlier the concept was, if you have a nurse call system, the patients will keep on pressing it every time and it's going to be bothersome. But today, the expectations of our patients are different. 35 years ago, when we built the hospital, we didn't have, we had very little parking because people didn't have cars in those days. Today, parking is a basic necessity for a hospital. Like that, a nurse call system enhances the value of your hospital. And that's not just the only thing. You can also, with a system like Mr. Prashanth has shown us, do even data analytics on that. How quickly was a call attended to? If a call hasn't been attended, it can be escalated to the next level, the ward in charge, or even the nursing superintendent can actually say, the patient called for you, and why haven't you attended in the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Whatever parameter you want to define. Prashanth, if you're there, I mean, I think you agree with me.
There. Dr. Prashanth,
you want to
Chintu?
add? Prashanth, you want to add anything?
I am not doctor, by the way. Prashanth Chinta. Yes, sir. I am here, doctor.
So with analytics, I mean, I'm a doctor, a technologist, and a strong believer of data. So with the right analytics, you can improve the quality of patient care. And these are small things, but as I say, soft skills, soft touches, you can improve patient care. And I think most of the people here are from the private sector or looking to start a hospital, and you want delighted patients who are delighted and will give a positive experience, because no one wants to be hospitalized. You go to a mall, you go to a movie cinema, you go by choice. No one goes by choice to a hospital. You're going to a hospital because you are compelled to, because of some unfortunate incident. But when they discharge, when they go back, if they can give a positive, I mean, if they experience a positive feeling about being hospitalized, they will tell the whole world about it, and you will get patients. And a nurse call system is a very basic, fundamental building block of that. Coming to Dr. Ram Krishnan, I have vested interest because Dr. Ram is my classmate and my colleague, but I've seen what he's built. I have just provided very little support. It's entirely his passion, and that shows when you have a doctor who's interested in technology and drives the system. Like Dr. Sudhakar said, it's by the doctor for the doctor. And Dr. Ram actually started this when he was in the UK at the NHS. He taught himself programming to do the initial version, and then from there he's developed the second, third version. He's now, what you saw is just the third version, and coming up is the fourth version. But he did mention about the hero score, which we've implemented for the first time in India. Ganesh, if you're there from GE, I think it's something that you should take up distribution in India, because the hero score is a game changer. We've had it for the last few months, and it's proven itself. It's really great.
In fact, absolutely, it'll be our privilege to partner with you, Dr. Suresh.
Thanks, Ganesh. But the nice thing about the heroes is not any extra monitor, or it's like cardiac output monitoring, another set of leads. No, it takes data, existing data from your monitor, analyzes it, and gives you a score that is empirical. It's very easy to understand. And once again, Dr. Ram did mention about HL7. And yes, if you've got a monitor that's HL7 compatible, this HL7, for those who don't know much, it's a standard. It's just like how you talk, you and I talk in English. It's a standard that everyone follows. And if your patient bedside monitor outputs data in HL7, this hero monitor can take the data, digest it, and give you back the results. Dr. Ram did mention about SNOMED, and Dr. Sudhakar also brought it about. There's one interesting aspect of SNOMED. We were talking about medical tourism. And SNOMED codifies almost everything in your medical notes. And bringing on the example of Dr. Sudhakar, where he said if he's in Netherlands. Now, what happens in Netherlands if the doctor is trained to speak only Dutch? The nice thing about SNOMED is it's language independent. The doctor in India could have entered his notes in English using SNOMED, and the backend has SNOMED coding. And whether he's in Iceland or in Norway, SNOMED allows you to have your medical notes in the language that you know. You can like blood pressure in German, whatever the name for it is, would be blood pressure in the language that they know. And coming to the third speaker, Dr. Suzaka Varanasi. Frankly, first things first, sir, I'm in awe of all that you've achieved. I speak as someone who in the US was working in the front lines in the ambulance service and flight service. And when I came back to India, I never thought I would see the equivalent of a 911 in India. And like you said, within a short period, EMRI and 108 became the standard. And like you said, Dr. Sudhakar said, transition sometimes happens really fast in India. Mobiles, I remember the years, like you said, when every time BSNL would say, you know, we were releasing 10,000, new exchange come up, 10,000 lines, and you had to apply and wait for several years. If you're a doctor, you could apply under a special OIT scheme, 23,000 rupees, if I'm not mistaken, and you could get a line. Otherwise, you had to wait. And today, like you said, my maid has 2 phones, sir, and 1 phone has a dual SIM. She's got 3 numbers. So that's amazing. And these are fundamental infrastructure issues that are a GDP multiplier. If you, like, telecom has shown to multiply GDP, and India has been reaping the benefits of telecom. Even highways, people, go back 20 years, our national highways were a joke. Today, our national highways get us from A to B in a reasonably fast time. Data, I was talking about data. So the ideal, continuing from what Dr. Ram said and what Dr. Sudhakar has accomplished, we have the technology to allow a patient who's taken by a 108 ambulance, EMRI ambulance, have his data reach the hospital even before the patient reaches the hospital, so that the doctor or the emergency department is ready, saying this patient is in STEMI, he needs catheterization, let's shift him directly to the cath lab, or this patient is in shock, let's treat him immediately. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents for the day, but today's speakers actually fed into each other, and it's a great panel. I'm open for any other questions from the audience. Thank you.
Suresh, thank you very much. So I am asking first, Varanasi sir, are you here, sir? Hello.
Yes, very much. Yes, very much. I'm here.
It is
You
for.
can
Sorry. It is for. 1 minute, sir. Switch on.
I can hear you.
Sir. Sir, you are the one ambulance 108.
Yeah.
Sir, have you any time thought? I think so. Prashanth is
Daniel is echoing too much.
Prashanth is echoing too much. Prashanth Gowda.
Sir, because multiple speakers are on, microphone is on.
You
So
can
you
unmute and talk now, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir, sorry, sir. See, the people who are attending, it will be useful for them. After this thing, I'll ask the same question to Mr. Suresh. I mean, so Dr. Suresh also. Sir, you are the founder of the 108. Have you thought, sir, what you did, saving many lives? All their blessings will be there. But at the same time,
I think I consider myself one of the most fortunate human beings alive, because what I did in response to a friend of mine dying in a road accident in Bangalore, a single person's thought process of wanting to channelize all that energy of frustration and anger when a friend of mine died in a road accident outside Bangalore. I wanted to channelize that into something useful, to build a system that will, so that people don't suffer like that. That today, okay, we started the thing with some personal money here and there and some company's money where I was working in a software organization. It translated in 2005, August 15th, into a launch of a project at the state level in Andhra Pradesh. And 2015 August, which is 3 weeks back, we had a meeting to celebrate the 15 years passing. And I was told that we saved 2 million, we crossed the 2 million lives mark that we saved. I actually had tears in my eyes when I heard that news. It was extraordinary. Where did we start with one person, a friend of mine dying, and where did we land up? In just being unsentimental and seeing systematically how can we solve this problem. With optimism, with positivism, we figured out how to do it. And of course, we were extraordinarily fortunate that all the pieces fell in place. Government was keen, state governments were keen. After they saw the results, then one state after the other, they all picked it up, and it became, we didn't have to put money. Governments were wanting to put money and make it a success, because the people saw, the customers, so that is ordinary human beings like you and me in the roads, found this beneficial, and it picked up momentum. So I would say that I'm fortunate and the blessings of millions of people. Every day, whatever else, other frustrations of mine, I go to sleep thinking that some 1,000 people have been saved in road accidents or home accidents or factory accidents today by EMRI. And that's a great feeling. So anyone who attempts any of these slightly bigger than oneself problems for the country will have the opportunity to experience that extraordinary feeling of fulfillment in one's life when you happen to see the results that have actually happened.
Dr. Sudhakar,
very much grace is there in your face. We are privileged. We are speaking with you. At the same time, sir, I have one question.
Sure.
I don't know why it is.
They never too much echo.
It's not from me.
Do you have both your computer and available?
No, sir. Now can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I have for you. You have done basically in a broad it is helping people. But suppose
We're not able to hear anything.
Okay, I am sending. Sir, I will take a snap.
If I may add, Dr. Sudhakar, I hope I have the privilege of meeting you sometime soon.
Privilege will be mine, sir. I will be very happy to meet anybody who is doing service to the doctors and teachers in this country. And when I say doctors, I mean nurses also. All the healthcare providers and teachers in this country whether you're a university professor or a small kindergarten child's teacher, you make a tremendous difference in society. So I'll be always happy to attend to these two people.
Yes. I personally have called 198 when an accident happened in front of me on the road, and I've seen the response happen.
That's nice, sir. Thank you.
Apologies for the video. I'm actually out for dinner with my wife on her birthday, so I'm at a restaurant.
Okay. Oh, wow. That is dedication. That's still coming on the line. Wonderful. When you called 108, did it respond quickly enough?
Yes, they did. That's what I have seen it in action.
Yes.
This is in Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu is very the system is implemented very efficiently. Just amazing. I had many stories from Tamil Nadu. In the earliest stages, we made some mistakes, but we learned on the fly, and we learned services just by being humble, but being very responsive to imagine ourselves in the patient's position. If we are in that position, what is the kind of support that we want? What is the kind of ecosystem that we want to see around us springing into action in a commando-like fashion to save our lives? That's all that we had to do. Same principle goes everywhere. Into the hospital that you said your father built a hospital. If you start looking at the requirements of the patients and start imagining yourself in their shoes, you will be able to solve some of the problems. Maybe you have to talk to technologists or policy makers or whatever. We all have that ability to do it, that little bit that's required. So I'm sure we all contribute. So it will be mine to meet you anytime you want. You can.
Thank you.
Hello. I think a lot of disturbance.
Howda?
Can you mute all once? Yeah, I think it's fine now. Leslie, sir.
Yeah, Prashanth.
Yes, sir. From your side.
Yeah, I want Dr. Ram one question. Dr. Ram is there online?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned about this EMR and especially the sepsis prediction score, hero score. How do we implement to our routine monitors this? Because this is we have multiple times we read that the paper from Virginia. In fact, we have a lot of Philips monitor in the unit, and every time we ask the technical specialist to convert this into algorithms. Somewhat we have failed. Can you able to highlight how we can do it and how we can prevent the mortality in this babies?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, the panelist, Dr. Suresh, he's my best friend, and he's very humble as well. He is a doctor and a medical information informaticist, and basically, whenever I get the ideas, I knock at his office door and ask for his help, because he gives clear ideas on how to. I think this question, better than me, Dr. Suresh would be able to answer that, because of his extensive knowledge in medical informatics.
Thanks, Ram. Leslie.
Yes, Suresh. Yes.
Sure. So if your monitor directly outputs HL7 data, it's fairly straightforward. Otherwise, most monitors have something called analog output, which sends the ECG waveform as an analog output. But then you had to invest money on an analog to digital converter that the Hero Score company, MPSC, it's called Medical Preventive Science Corporation. They're the guys behind Hero Score. So you'll have to invest on those analog digital AD converters, which converts your heart rate, because the hero score is based on heart rate variability. And if it's digital, it's so much more cheaper. Otherwise, it's still doable as long as the monitors have an analog output. So talk to your Philips engineers, vendor, and find out if they can output HL7 messages. Not just HL7 data once every minute. The kind of data they're looking at is 500 megahertz. That is 500 hertz. That is 500 samples per minute of heart rate.
Thank you, Suresh. I think we will. I think you mentioned also, even Ram or Dr. Ram has also mentioned about HL7. Maybe I think with this we'll try to implement it, and maybe we'll spread this message. Yeah. So because this is very useful for most of the
feel free to get in touch with us offline.
Yeah. Right.
Prashanth has the numbers, so you can contact us anytime.
Yeah, we will do that.
This is Sudhakar here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sir, we can hear.
Yeah. I just wanted to say Dr. Alan Watkins of UK is a specialist in heart rate variability measures. He's come up with a brilliant way of looking at the relationship between heart rate variability and possibility of predicting various health problems. So there is a lot of information available, and I occasionally talk about neuroscience advances when I always mention the heart rate variability as an indicator of coherence in your physiological system and emotional system, because breathing and heart rate variability are connected, and therefore they are connected to the emotions, your stability, and therefore they're related to other parameters of your health like cortisol, stress levels in your life, and so on. So if you can get consolidated information in 24 hours of all these parameters of your heart rate variability primarily at great frequency, at the required frequency, you'll be able to. In fact, Dr. Alan Watkins says, you give me 24 hours information about your heart rate variability, I will tell you how long you are going to live. He is that confident because the data speaks quite a bit. So it's an amazing science that's developing, and with machine learning and so on, we're able to predict many things which a human brain cannot analyze the similar amount of data in a simple mechanical way. So there are great possibilities in this one.
No, there is a Skylab monitor. Whatever variability, what is the that is really very good, because that is already there in that monitor. Skylab, it is there, but you ambulance going to the hospital. So they have called us. There is a how they will come to know that when my ambulance is their hospital, because now we come to the cab, we are going to where the is how I think we should develop that app or is there any other?
Sorry, I could not hear the question carefully. Was it addressed to me, first of all? There was some noise and I couldn't hear that.
Sir, it is like,
yeah.
Suppose if neighbor called to my hospital,
yeah,
telling that there is a delivery, the hospital is around 40. Can you pick the baby or any patient? So how he will come to my ambulance? He has to go there. How many minutes it will take? He has to keep on calling. Otherwise, is there any app? The location.
Because lot of echoing, able to hear you at all.
Network issue. Anyhow, sir. Prashanth, I will take a snapshot. Please ask that.
Yeah, kindly, since I couldn't hear I heard only parts of the question, not the complete part. I would love to, if you speak to Ganesh is a good friend. He will be able to give you my contact number or email or a WhatsApp number. I'll be happy to answer anything that could not be answered because of the communication systems. Please go ahead. Okay.
This is I just have. May I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Dr. Sudhakar and you mentioned about bringing in this digitalization or having these AI the medical care. Just want to kind of it's a pre-proposal or early stage. As I was talking about our nurse call systems being digital today, and this intranet case, that is a kind of stepping stone also for us. That when you really look at the IoT part of it, the south part, what we talk as the sensors, everything, and the north part being the data into